Hey, count out to the geeks. We are back and we have an awesome guest. As you can tell in the background, we've got Echo, we've got Daredevil Echo, and then that's kind of blocked a little bit, but this just hit shelves last week. Ultimate Hawkeye #1. We got B. Earl, one of the dynamic duos who wrote it with his partner Taboo, who also wrote with him. We're gonna before we get him in the room, of course, we got to give a shout out to Dragons Der Alamo Ranch. If you like comics, if you like gaming, you like Pokemon, Magic, 40K, this is where you want to go. You want to pick up some graphic novels, head up there. You can pre-order your comics, variant covers, all that cool stuff. And then let's not forget Nasser's show that's coming up. Um, the guest list is phenomenal. Independent writers, independent artists, Marvel artists, DC artists, legends, Blue Beetle artist. If you're a Blue Beetle fan, you're gonna want to go to this show. But let's not wait longer. Let's get Earl in the room. Sir, welcome.
What's up?
Dude, I've been waiting for this comic to drop. And, we did do an interview before. We had technical difficulties. But you know what?
Difficulties, aka kids playing in the basement by the router, unplugging it so the Wi-Fi died.
Hey, things happen for a reason, man.
They do. I'm actually glad that we can actually talk about it as opposed to kind of allude to little tidbits. Now it's out. Ronan's out. People are, in a tizzy. Maybe, I don't know. Whether they like it or not. I mean, it is what it is. It's
reviews from comic sites have been, raving about this. I feel the same way. The artwork is awesome. The stories, I mean, dude, how did you come up with this story? What was it that between you and Taboo, y'all went to the meeting and said, "Hey, let's do this, let's do that." How'd this work? How did that come up with?
So, this was one of those projects that kind of came out of nowhere, where, obviously Daredevil and Echo, that was the last project that we had done. And, what a great fun project to do. And so proud of that one and really proud of all the work, that we've been able to do with Marvel. But we kind of hadn't really done anything in a while, and all of a sudden get an email from Will Moss, our editor, and was like, "Hey, are you guys available? Super short notice, but we know you're super busy, and we've got an opportunity." And obviously, I will never say no to anything our Marvel family will say. Tab was actually on tour when we got that email, and I was in the midst of wrapping up another project, and I was like, the timing's actually perfect. Not that I would ever say no, but it will work out. But basically, it was just like, hey, we've got this Ultimate Hawkeye one shot, and what we need to do is give you 20 pages, right? And it's a one shot, so come up with a story. Now, one shots can be tough because if it has to, this one was especially challenging because one, it had to fit somewhat into the Ultimates universe without taking off on its own thing. It was framed by it. It had to leave threads for it, but at the same time also had to exist as its own self. Now that's a challenge because when you got 4 issues and you can build a real arc or 5 issues or whatever, this is what I would call a poem in a lot of ways, right? You've got a poem, you got to pack it. And in that packing, you're just doing everything you possibly can to also give those threads over to Dennis, who, as you read, did the opening framing story.
Yeah.
So, the way it all worked out was, hey, this is what we need. Come up with a story, throw it back to us, pitch it, and then we'll bounce back and forth. And I had to read all the Ultimates up until that point, plus all the scripts going forward. So I got a framework of what's happening in the Ultimates universe. So, me loving doing research, I just dove in over the weekend. It's Got It Friday, dove in over the weekend, Monday, back in the mix. But Tab and I were talking about like what are some ideas, what are some fun things. Obviously this was going to be taking place in New York. A lot of the projects, obviously, a lot of the stories, as you've seen, often take place in Los Angeles. I'm in New York now, though, so I'm getting back to my old East Coast roots. So it felt like a good homecoming to write a New York story. To literally have
Yeah.
just shifted coast. I mean, I'm back and forth to the West Coast, but shifting coast. So that was really the beginning. And I've been wanting to tell like an Eyes Wide Shut story. Like that was something I've been itching to tell, like an Eyes. I love that movie. I love like politically what was happening too with all these Epstein files, like being like, how do we give a nod to like all the dark shit that's happening in this world, whatever's happening, but without making it on the nose. So and then also like these ideas of like maybe darker, I'm very deep into a lot of like esoteric stuff, occult, et cetera, et cetera. So Tab and I were bouncing back and forth on ideas. He was sending me images like Michelle LeMay. I don't know if you know her at all, but supposedly look it up.
Okay.
Look up Michelle LeMay. She is the partner of Rick Baker, who is a fashion dude. Look them up. You'll and then Travis Scott. There's some really dark Hollywood twisted stories,
wow.
Conspiracies, whatever. So like those were the seeds that we started bouncing on. And, I was like, all right, cool. Like Eyes Wide Shut. But the other thing I really love is that sort of Dangerous Game vibe. Like originally this pitch was like two warriors against each other, one being Hawkeye, the other being someone else that we were, kind of trying to figure out who that person would be. And it was going to be this rich elite group that were putting them against each other. That was going to be like the one shot, which obviously awesome. It ended up becoming that in a very new sort of way, as you've read, like where that thread is still in there. Some of the like darker, like, other elements are in there. Some of the obviously esoteric symbolism, all those things that I love, all in there. But that was the build. That was the pitch. The original pitch, when we sent it over, it was a little too beefy. It would have been really hard to put into a 20-page book. I sometimes, we think a little big. I know what I'm getting in the lab in there. I'm picturing like 5-issue arc. And you have to remember, 20 pages. Remember, you don't want to be more than 8 panels on a page. You start getting a little heavy, and you don't want to overwrite it. That's the hardest thing, man. So anyway, those were all of those sorts of threads that began this journey and ultimately ended up in your hands right now.
So how did you, with all that you already had, that giving it beef, how did you know what parts to trim off to bring it down to where it needed to be? I mean, because as an editor, you edit stuff, you have some great footage, and you're like, okay, I got to trim it down to a minute and 30. So you got to figure out, okay, what you're going to cut. It's all great, but you got to figure out how to trim it down. And it's so hard. Is that, how did you do that?
Well, I mean, as you said, as an editor, I mean, the better part of my career in Hollywood was as a film editor, amongst other things. But, I really cut my teeth as a storyteller in the dark edit rooms, the cold, chilly, dark edit rooms,
Yeah.
with all sorts of directors and other folks, and, one of the goals is always like, how do you service the story to the best of its ability? What are those elements that are most necessary? And, writing comic books, it really is, how do you make the reader turn the page constantly? You don't, you want to give enough on a page, but you also don't want to give too much on the page. And that's the alchemy of it. That's the balance. And I think, in a lot of ways, it really was, okay, focus on what are the key elements, right? Hawkeye has to start in this sort of feeling of, hi, I'm coming in, I'm in control, I'm a badass, they are very cocky, as you saw in the prologue, right? Hawkeye is kind of this cocky character, and I'm like, I want to beat the shit out of this character. I love and it's funny. One of my other friends that does reviews and whatever, and was like, why do you hate Hawkeye so much? And it was like, I got that message just as I was getting on the plane to LA, and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, did he hate the book? Literally, I don't know. We always want to make the best things we can and hope that our friends and colleagues enjoy them, of course. But I always say that, when you can beat the crap out of a character and then bring them back and sort of really redeem them to some degree, that you really love the character. I mean, that's true love as a writer. When we when we beat the hell out of our characters, we really love them. We don't just give them, this superhero journey of just, I'm going to go and, I'm going to just do everything and I'm going to save the world. It's like, that's not interesting. That to me isn't interesting. There needs to be stakes. And Charlie needed really to kind of get a sound smacking, I felt. With all love to Charlie. We love you, Charlie.
Well, I mean, the prologue itself. I mean, okay, guys, this is dropping. You should have read it by now.
Yeah.
Spoiler wise,
Spoilers.
Opening. She has an earpiece that can hear the heartbeat of the person she's tracking across the way, like if she had her head against his chest. The technology. I mean, putting that into the prologue, and of course his arrows can do so much cool stuff. I mean, that was even thrown in there. I mean, it was just
they're just like shooting an arrow and then they kill Claw, which I thought was super dope. And my son, when he's like, Dad, that was so awesome, and I was like, yeah, Dennis like killed it. Like that was a fun opening. Like we set that up in such a way, I mean, really, like, obviously Dennis had the pitch of what the story was. Dennis went off and made the framing, and I thought that was a really brilliant stroke where it was like, let's show Charlie as like, I can just kill you from a million miles away. I can do, like, they were able to do the most insane shit. And then it's like, nah, let's yeah.
Dude, I mean, that alone was just the opener. I mean, we haven't even gotten into the meal. That was just the appetizer. Yeah.
It was a tasty smorgasbord truffle oil. I don't know.
I mean, okay, that's a cool thing. It's like, and then we jump in, you see him in the coat with the hat, and then they're walking down in New York, and the way it jumps into it, and the cockiness still has the cock,
You're just gonna be like,
yeah, but of course, it jumps into it where, that cockiness got you in trouble, and I feel you doing that as a human. We all get to that point where we get big-headed and we think, hey, you know what, nothing can harm us. But you know what, sometimes we got to get slapped down to realize, hey, dude, you're not invincible, you are still human. And that's what you did here, and I loved how you did it.
Thank you It was something that I've wanted to do for a while with a superhero, where we take a superhero and literally strip them of everything. Like, Charlie's only as good as their arrows. Like, Hawkeye, without the arrows, without any sort of weapons, really, they don't have any superpowers. They're not like super strong like Captain America. They're not, whatever vision, like they can't phase through walls. Like, they're not able to do anything without their equipment.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, that to me was such a key element that, who are we without the tools of our trade, right? And how can we be the best that we can be without the tools of our trade? How do we really have that inner strength, that inner ability, that sort of fire within to push through when we don't have the things that we can hide behind, the masks that we can don and, come out to the world with, right? And that to me was like, look, this is an initiation for all intents and purposes. And it was a dark initiation. It was a twisted initiation. And, Exterminatrix basically took secret mystery initiations and bastardized them for her sort of abilities and her community and this group, this underground. And that's the thing, like, people are like, oh, what, in the middle of New York, there's this underground city, like this underground thing. And I'll be honest, I was telling my son about this the other day. I said, you know what, when I worked with the P's on Masters of the Sun. Before Tab and I had started working together, I worked with Will, and I went to a dinner. I was like, we were in New York for signing Masters of the Sun, and it was like, hey, we're gonna go to this dinner. Meet us at this restaurant. I was like, all right, cool. Take the cab. I think it was in Brooklyn. I don't remember. And I get there, and there's like this little front. There's people doing takeout. I'm like, where is this place? And there's a door, and there's a guy standing at the door. And I go over, and I'm like, I'm here to see. And I go, guy's like, downstairs. Door opens. You go downstairs, and all of a sudden you're in an entirely different world. And there's like Will and everybody. Tab's over. No, I don't think Tab went out that night. Apple's over there. Like everybody. That was a crazy night. And I'm saying, like, this is New York. Like this, the weird underground, like, and it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this, like, twisted sex club with girls in cages and all that.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of like, we don't know what happens beneath the surface. We don't know what happens behind that closed door in that little storefront that you're getting, some sandwiches at, and underground is like a whole other world.
Oh yeah. I mean, it goes back even to like in Chicago, same thing.
Oh,
you know how
the speakeasies.
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of how I took it too. Is like you don't know, and when you put her in that situation where they have nothing. It's like she was having to find herself, and that's what I got. And I like how you did it. Where, yeah, and guys, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, this is, again, one of those things where you put a character into sort of a trial, right? Like they were on trial, and Charlie started off with nothing. And ultimately, there's that moment where they have to choose to take this was sort of hinted at. And I didn't put this in there too overtly. But there's that moment where they're in the room and they have all the gear in front of them.
Yeah.
And there's an open door, right? There's that open portal. And instead of going through the portal and continuing on without the gear, because the portal wasn't closing or anything, it was an open.
Yeah.
They take the gear, and as soon as they finish putting on the gear, the portal closes. And it was like, you could have kept walking through, but instead you chose to take your weapons, your equipment, right? And who knows but then they were able to get through, blah, blah, blah. They blow their way. And it was just like, Exterminatrix was ultimately toying with Charlie throughout the whole story. I mean, they wanted, come on, Charlie, Exterminatrix wanted the battle at the end. Everybody was waiting at the very opening. They say that. I mean, there's going to be a great battle at the end. There's, wait for the evening's festivities. Like, that was not Exterminator's intent was not to kill Charlie, right? It was to maim them, to hurt them, to put them in a position where they would have to really summon as much as they possibly could in order to overcome the trials and tribulations. And that's what the story was about, like digging into yourself and pulling it out. That moment where Charlie's going back into their mind about their grandmother and thinking about, and that's something Taboo, always talks about his grandmother, and is always talking about his family and his heritage. And, especially when you're looking to tap into your ancestry, and when you have a deep connection to your ancestry, and ancestry in this case too, in the native cultures, an ancestry that was tried to be wiped out, that was outlawed. And here is Charlie using that to ultimately empower themselves and overcome that and find that inner strength, and basically become the best version of themselves. And now they've been at the end, spoiler alert, and then but I mean, there's a choice. Like, this is about choices, right? Like, life is about choices. And I think in storytelling, when we can give characters opportunities to make challenging choices, that really helps push a story into my opinion, the best places it can go. Because if you just keep handing them all the toys, whatever. I just watched Spectre, the James Bond movie, and I didn't see that. I was on the plane ride back, and James is like, you don't get any of this cool stuff except you get this little watch that, but at the end, James, that watch is what saves James' life at the very end of the movie, right? It's like that one little thing. You didn't get all the cool, weapons and this and that. He gets one little thing, and that one little thing used correctly, that's why it's called the right tool for the job. That's the name of the story. So
Yeah, is that where you got that from?
So Will came back and was like, "Hey, we need a title for this." So I threw one of the titles was "The Sick Rose," which is the name of the William Blake poem, and I thought that was sort of like, that was a more heady, poetic, it's like a little, ooh, it's so fancy, man. But the right tool for the job was one of the other titles that I threw there, and Will and Tab really connected to that one. So it was just like, I'm always like, it's a democracy, whoever, and I love that title. It wasn't that I wasn't, for that title, but that title made the most sense. And Will was like, this title makes the most sense for this character. The right tool for the job, that's the right title. And I said, I love it. Like, obviously that was one of the titles proposed. So that is, and also, we can talk more about this. There is a lot of Masonic symbolism in it. And that is
Yeah.
a huge part of the first degree as an entered apprentice, is to understand what is the right tool for the job. When you have to, make yourself a better person, what do you need to do? And what is the right way to make yourself a better person? And that's the sort of doubling of the idea and the symbols.
Well, no, and I think, stories like this for the younger generations, just like D&D, it shows like, hey, your decisions have consequences. So
Absolutely.
you need to make these right decisions. Like in D&D, it tells you, okay, hey, these are the two things in front of you. You can either attack, you can spin for, additional power or something. It's telling you, like, if you just decide to attack without doing something else first, it couldn't come back and bite you in the butt. And that's kind of what I took, and that's what we need in comics for the younger generations, to tell them, hey, yeah, it's cool to be a superhero, but you know what?
Yeah.
Superheroes do have to make decisions as well, and sometimes they can come back.
Well, and I think, like, for instance, if you're to punch through a wall and your strength is punching through a wall, like that's your super. What if you punch through that wall and there's somebody that you're trying to save on the other side of the wall and you kill them with that one punch,
Yeah.
and you're thinking, I'm going to get through it, right? And instead of using your brain, your mind, you choose to use your strength. And similarly, sometimes you overthink things, and ultimately you should have just gone right through. You should have taken the door. You should have, and I think that is, one of the big questions I always look at in even my own life. It's like, pushing yourself forward is going to generate choices.
Yeah.
And your choices are going to be driven by where you've come from up until that point. So trusting your intuition oftentimes is going to be the best way for you to actually make choices that you've never faced before. So the more you work on yourself, the more you learn from people, the more you are around people and surround yourself with good people, and supportive people and people that believe in you. I mean, like, I think, look, to be honest, I mean, where Tab and I have our strongest strength and has grown over so long is that, I always was someone who worked in the backgrounds of things. I was always a producer. I was an editor. You're never forward facing when you're in those spaces.
Yeah.
And, Tab always has pushed me up and, said, no, you need to be forward facing. You need to use your voice. You need to be that writer that I believe in. You need to, I see that, go and do that. And it now I'm finally like, these past couple years, I've really started to believe that. And I think, it's hard because it's hard to believe in ourselves when we
No, yeah, it
feel,
is.
yeah, it's hard. And when someone else sees our talents, when someone else sees our abilities and loves us for them and believes in us and wants to help support that, I mean, that's all you can ever do. I mean, that's what good family is about. And family isn't always the ones that are your blood. Family is, in so many ways, those that truly see your truth. They see your truth, they see your abilities, and they're there to altruistically help, you know, everything isn't transactional. And I think that's the thing. Oftentimes in Hollywood, and that was always the thing I always hated about, working in Hollywood, is everything felt very transactional. Everything was these transactional relationships. If you do this for me, what do I, if I get this from you. So, I think that's really a lot of that was poured into this story, was about those choices and learning to believe in yourself and learning to, you know, but not believe in yourself in the way of like what Charlie. Pride is the greatest, it's the greatest fault we can ever have, right? Like pride. There's nothing wrong with being proud of a job. There's nothing wrong with feeling honored. But when you have pride at the expense of others, by destroying other people at the expense of your own need for, worship, right? That is the devil's, secret sauce, if you will.
No, you're hitting it the nail on the head. I mean, perfect example. Pride, as humans, we tend to don't want to show our weakness, because if we show our weakness, we feel like they'll take advantage of us or something. So we let our pride take control and take over. And this is one of the things, spoilers, guys, if you haven't read the comic, you need to read it.
Go read it.
Charlie has to decide. She's given two tools. Which one are you going to take? And as pride, and because of what you're in the situation, you have to pick between.
I'm gonna kill, I'm gonna hurt, I'm gonna maim, I'm so powerful, I need to be the warrior. And sometimes the warrior isn't the right choice. Sometimes the builder or the intellect, the mind, is the way to go. It's that's the challenge. And your pride can absolutely put you in those positions where you decide, no, I'm gonna punch right through the wall. It's not the right choice.
When I saw that in my head, I pictured John Wick, like looking, okay, I can get the gun, I can get the knife. Which one am I going to take? Oh, but I have a pencil here.
Right. I mean, right tool for the job.
You know what I mean? So technically, if would have stopped and really analyzed, that ruler could have been used as a weapon if it was taken. But as humans, we believe the hammer is stronger than the ruler. So, it was kind of like mind blowing. And that's just me, how I take things in as I read things. I analyze stuff, which is kind of weird. I don't know why. I think it's just my ADHD brain overthinking.
No, but that's good. That's what it's meant to do. You're supposed to especially when things are a little bit off, right? Like when I'm conceiving moments, and I always say this, like, I don't write from I always am recording. I'm not writing from the sort of, I'm creating this. It feels like it's downloading. And I remember that scene coming in and seeing that, because for me, like, I was already going through things in my own personal life, and right, so you're downloading these things that we've experienced, ideas that we've had in other conversations, books that we've read, whatever it is, right? That's why, for being like, the most important thing a writer can ever do is read, right? That is the most important thing. Obviously, you can watch television, you can watch YouTube, there's a lot of ways to take in information. But reading is really one of the most important traits, because obviously, as a writer, you are stringing words together. You are using the technology of language. So, it was one of those moments where it was like watching that happen in my brain, and these things coming together and going, like,
wow,
yeah, that's what I want to see. Like, that's the choice, like, that's the choice Charlie has to make.
It was awesome. And I mean, we haven't even gotten to the real nitty gritty part. That's just getting into cutting the meat.
Well,
I mean,
before that happened, this is one of my favorite pages. And I have to say, Michael did such a great job. And it happened so quickly. I have the book right here. When Charlie gets shot in the neck by the Now, that to me was just pulling straight out of an old cartoon. Like it's like, don't fight it, pal. You'll only make it worse. You know, all I heard were the voices in my head were like these old, like 1940s, 1930s. Hey, pal, oh buddy, oh mine, oh, and then it turns into a cartoon. I mean, literally, you know, you see the
Yeah.
actor go, wee, and it's like boom, and he's got this, you know, those legs. Michael did such a great job on that, and it's literally just like 3 panels of cartooniness, and it's just, you know, obviously cluing you on in is the Max Fleischer flick, and I love that kind of stuff. And you know, Bendy and the Ink Machine, me and my son used to play that all the time. I love that kind of stuff, and I'm always like, if I can throw these little, like, you know, homages to that, but it also on another level plays something interesting, because in a lot of this it was all about like the deep-seated racism that came from a lot of these old cartoons, from a lot of this old entertainment, right? So on that third level of it playing through, it was like, here is this character being thrown into this potentially, like, if you remember that Bugs Bunny, like, hey little two little three little, you know, it was like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
there was some heavy racism and everything in those old cartoons, and now this character is being literally transformed into that space. So there was a lot, like, playing with this. You know, I
Yeah.
don't, when I write, I don't like to write on one level. Sometimes I don't even like to write on two.
No, I had liked that because it reminded me, because that's basically kind of telling you, hey, that the tranquilizer's kicking in, and it's kind of like, it reminds me kind of like I'm trying to find a proper one that can kind of go with it. Oh, it's kind of like the um Scott
Who
Pilgrim.
framed Roger? Which one?
Oh, or Scott
Oh,
Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
where it's kind of like it transitions to a different world. You're still in human world, but then it's like a video game. But here it's like, it's that mentality where it's starting to mess with the head, because now that drug's kicking in, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like the LSD. You're
Yeah, it was totally like this very LSD, like wee, like,
Yeah,
you know, and I think those kinds of moments for me are about how do we understand what's the true reality we're in. And sometimes it's very challenging because,
yeah.
you know, when you're a superhero, you're in multiple realities. Like the belief, you know, in the Marvel universe, like there's obviously there's multiple dimensions. There's multiple versions. This is the ultimates. This is this, you know, that that's an interesting play. It's like, where is reality in our, you know, sort of material box that we exist in, and where is the sort of fine line where it bleeds out into, you know, another truth or another reality, and how do you perceive that? Yeah, I mean, that to me is like playing with people's heads is a lot of fun.
Well, I'm gonna leave the rest until, because we don't want, because this, guys, if you didn't know, it's already gone into second printing because it's sold out of issue number one. So I want people. We just gave a little bit. I'm not gonna give the final end stuff because I want to keep that for the people who did
Go
not
out and
read
read
it yet. Yes, I want them to go out and read it,
it.
because as much as I want to talk about what happens at the end
I
of this,
know.
you know, I don't want to spoil it, because you know I'm
No,
gonna
it's
drop
okay.
this
We
a
don't have
week.
to spoil it.
Yeah, drop
We
it a
won't
week later.
spoil.
But guys, you need to go get this. The next issue is going to be like the reprints coming out, and it's cool when you get second printings, because that's telling you readers are really catching on to this. They want to read it, and sometimes the second printing covers are coming out pretty cool as well.
There's some cool second printing covers. I saw, you know, it's interesting. So we had Daredevil and Echo number one went to second printing, and then the Spirit Rider, the Spirits of Vengeance, Kashala book went to a second printing. So this will be the third time we've had a book go to second printing, which is pretty exciting. So let's hope
Um,
that maybe Echo Seeker of Truth also goes.
hey,
We'll see.
I'm looking forward to that one too. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you
Yeah.
mentioned something that dropped but hasn't been really talked about yet, and it's
No, not at
ties
all.
to something that I have back here. Can you tell us? Tell us what it is.
So, um, the it's a Blade story. I can tell you
Ah,
that. It's one of the short stories in the Black, White, Blood, and Guts. I think it's
those are
Black,
the
White, Blood, and
best.
Guts #3. It is it's a short one, but you know, it's a poem, as I like to say. These short stories are very similar to, if you read our Dream Spider story. That one was also like a little. I think that was a 10-pager as well, if I'm not mistaken, in Edge of the Spider Verse. So this story is. Look, to be able to touch Blade as a writer. Come on. And again, this was me and Tab talking about how do we bring in native mythology into this? How do we bring in, put Blade in that space? Because, any of the books that I do with Tab, obviously, to some degree, often have those sorts of threads to them so that we can
Yeah.
be able to, explore and represent, obviously, his heritage and background and everything like that. So, in sort of building this out, it was like, okay, what's a story within myths, in native myths, that is interesting, that might be a sort of foundational? And I found this really cool story that was about a queen, and I won't give too much away, because if I get too deep into it, and if I tell you the myth, no, but in the myth, there's a queen who basically she subjugates all of her people to build the most glorious temple to her. And ultimately, in doing, because she wants to compete with this other temple. Remember, we talked about pride, right?
Yes.
So she wants to build this temple, and in doing so, she ends up like killing all of her subjects, like working them to the bone, like enslaving them by at the point
Wow.
where, right? And her own daughter gets sort of woven into this dark deed and desire. And I took that myth and took the after effects of it, so to speak, and then threw Blade into the mix of it. And that's awesome.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's definitely, I mean, as you know, like Tab and I love horror movies and monsters and creepy crawler, whatever. Like, always been a big fan of that. And so Luke Ross did the art. And if you've seen Luke's work, I mean, his incredible work on Star Wars, I mean, he just, it's incredible. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And the original inspiration for this was really leaning into like that Frazetta vibe, like that kind of
Oh.
sexy Conan. Like, I just wanted
Yeah.
it to feel like right out of that flavor town, you know? So like that was the spice that was in there. And I have to say, Luke definitely channeled that. And big shout out to our editor Devin Lewis, always, and CB Belusky. I mean, CB is always, he was the one who put us on, really pushed this one, and got us in the mix on this Blade story. So yeah, it's a fun one. I think you'll enjoy it, being a Blade fan.
We need more Blade. Um and when I had Marv on, and you're friends with Marv, which is
Yeah.
freaking awesome. I
Marvel's amazing.
would be so okay if I was the fly in the room to be able to just chill in a room with Marv and just shoot the shit. I would be, oh my god. I mean, because this man's mind is so creative. We would not have, the Teen Titans. We would not
No,
have all the things that
Deathstroke. Yeah.
and it's kind of like I just wonder sometimes, like, where did, like, and I understand some people's minds just constantly think, and they just need to write down, they jot it down, and it may not be something they go to right away. They may come back to later. The story he told me about how he came up with, Infinite Crisis in an elevator. I, I was like,
That's
what?
awesome. I mean, look, here's the thing. The best stories are the ones that just hit you and they hook into you, right? Like, there's a seed, there's this little idea, and it just like latches onto you, and you're like, oh, I can't shake it. And you just keep going back to it, and it just sits in there. And like, I mean, honestly, like, as you said, you never know when something's going to come back. Like, I always carry a notebook with me. I've got, this is my little notebook here. Just started a new one. These
Wow.
are my go-tos. I love these little moleskins. It's filled with little doodles and ideas, and I've
Wow.
got stacks of these freaking things. And then, you got to have, as you said, the right tools. We talk about the right tools, and we all have our tools. Like, this is my favorite, the Micron 05. I always carry this and that book. And, to your point about like Marv, I mean, it's just like people that like with him, and he was just in it. I mean, that man was just, when he was doing all the DC, and I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was Stan Lee's assistant many, many moons ago. I remember him telling me a story at San Diego Comic Con. And he was like, if I'm not mistaken, I think Marv started out as like an intern or an assistant with Stan and those guys, like right in the bullpen. I mean, he was in it, man.
Wow. Okay, so now let's talk. You were at San Diego. Not San Diego.
I was in LA.
LA
Close
for
enough.
LA Comic Con.
Yeah.
How was it? Were you there working, or were you there enjoying? What were you doing in LA?
I mean, that's what we do, right? I mean, we love what we do, so we go. It's funny. I actually hadn't really planned. I didn't even remember that it was that weekend. I mean, I've just been so many things going on, and my trip to LA actually coincided with the weekend. So I hit up my buddy Julio, who owns We Can Be Heroes Comics, and I was like, "Yo," I'm like, "I don't have a badge." I'm like, "You got an extra exhibitor badge? Because I know you always like got, you're always in the mix." And Julio goes, yeah, I got you, bro. Come down. I was like, I'll trade you some signed comics. You can put them up in the shop. So I brought him a bunch of a couple of Hawkeye books, some variants, whatever. Signed them up for him, and that was the trade. But it was a good con. I mean, this is the first year they did Artist Alley in the parking garage, and then
I heard about that.
Was so it was a pretty big Artist Alley. I mean, I went on Friday, so like the foot traffic was pretty light. I felt like it wasn't crazy, but maybe that's because it was spread out over 2 floors, and it felt like a good thing that it was. I also went early too. I went like 2 hours after it opened.
Oh, okay.
1, and I was there at 2:30. But it was good. It was a good turnout. It was good people. I feel like LA Comic Con is, it's been around for a minute. Like, I remember, so an old friend of mine, Regina, she was one who started it when it was Kamikaze. And then it became Stan Lee's Kamikaze, and then it became Stan Lee's Comic Con, and then it became LA Comic Con. It was like, it's gone through so many name changes. Now it's just LA Comic Con. But yeah, I mean, every year it's like, it is different. I went last year for a beat, it was pretty packed last year. This year, like I said, I went early, and I just went and saw a bunch of friends, kind of did the what's up, saw David Mack, said what's up to David,
Dude.
I was I showed him some of our Echo book. I was like, David always got, me and Tab always have so much respect for what you created, so we always got to make sure we represent the character correctly, and so I showed him some of that, and yeah, it was good. It was a good con.
Dude, David Mack is on my top of the list of people to interview. That dude is so talented.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what he does with watercolors, yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean, I've met him. I've had an opportunity to buy a print, and I've told him. I've reached out to him, but he's busy too a lot. So that's another thing too. But it was this big, not huge, and I talked to Matt Hodson about it. Had an opportunity to buy it. Mind you, this was like 13 years ago, before we had scanners at the tables at cons.
Mm.
So it was like, oh, it's this much, and I only had so much cash with me. So I'm like, shit, let me go get some cash. I go get the cash, come back, sold.
No, it didn't hold it. Oh, that's a bummer.
Well, no, because I told him, I'm gonna see if I can find money. I was like, okay, I didn't think I didn't think it was gonna sell, because I mean, he had a bunch of original art there. So I was like, it was a small Dexter piece. And and I was just like, but I so regretted it. I should have told him to hold it, but I didn't.
Like, hold it, I'll be right back.
But dude, the stuff he's done, man. I mean, for Marvel, Power Rangers, he's done covers. I mean, it's just, I love seeing his artwork. I hope to
Yeah.
have one hanging up in my house, a piece like that. But yeah, nah, man. I was gonna ask, have you got any pieces from him of your work?
Like original? No, no. Honestly, I've actually I've never bought any of our pages, but I did sign. So there was Tab and I did a signing at an event for We Can Be Heroes, and one of there's an art collection group that buys a lot of like different pieces. This one guy, he was following me, he hit me up. He's like, "Yo," he's like, "I'm not gonna be there, but I bought the original first appearance of Dream Spider." So he had the original fully colored Juan's piece. Like he bought it off of Juan. I don't know how much he
Wow.
bought it, but he has literally the first appearance of Dream Spider. And it was really such an like amazing moment when I think my friend Carl actually, I think Carl was the one who brought it. And he goes, "Hey, blah, blah." And this was actually the first time Carl, we've been talking. We hadn't actually met in person. So he brought that piece, and Tab and I saw it for the first time, like the real piece, like painted color.
Wow.
And it was a really cool moment because a lot of this, like we see them in PDFs half the time. Like I'm doing edits, like I'm getting stuff on my phone and I'm like going through my phone going like, all right, that looks like, oh, zoom in, take a screenshot, send it off to the editor. Can we like get this little, get this coloring on the, like change that coloring a little bit. I do get a little, I apologize to all the folks I work. I do get specific at times, but I'm not one of those notes crazy people. But anyway, working with Juan and seeing that piece in person, it was a really awesome moment. It was a really dope moment. So that's the long story of me. No, I've never bought anything from any of the artists we worked on original stuff, but I have held in my hand the first appearance of Dreamspire and signed it, so that was fun.
Wow. That's that's awesome. I mean, getting to do that and getting to hang with like David Mack and like Marv and all that cool stuff. Okay, so I was gonna ask,
Yeah,
'cause so this past weekend they dropped a prototype of Taboo's, a figure of Taboo.
yeah. So Angry Foot. So we had actually worked on that a long time ago. A dear friend of ours, David Vonner.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Vonner, but Vonner is an incredible toy designer and creator. Vonner worked on like the Hasbro,
Yeah.
all the Marvel Legends, all that stuff. So we were all three of us working together on bouncing out some ideas, building out this storyline. I kind of had this big sort of crazy meta idea of how Angry Foot was like a toy in a toy box, and it was like some crazy, crazy stuff. But ultimately, what happened was so Vonner creating. You can see this on Tab's podcast, his Taboo's Comics and Kicks podcast. He brought out the actual prototype. Like we were out actually using that prototype from Sideshow. So there is a
Yeah.
full-on like statue of Angry Foot looking super freaking dope. So we were out there pitching with that. Nothing really played out as one, knows in Hollywood shit. You think it's happening and then it all falls apart, and you're like, all right, well, moving on. But that prototype that Vonner had was originally just a sort of 3D model,
Yeah.
and now like pushing it ahead. So I really hope that they can go off and turn
Looks
this
pretty
into something
cool.
dope. It looks super fresh, man. Like those guys, like Vonner's awesome. Yeah, he and I we're talking about some other stuff. We've got some other things, cooking. I mean, that's the beautiful thing, right? Like I was saying earlier, it's family, right? Like you got the cousins and the this, and we're all like kind of all playing together. Some of us go off and do some things over here, like, and that's when you have this community of artists and creatives and people that you can introduce to each other, and then all of a sudden they go off and they start creating, and I think that to me is like the greatest thing you can ever have, like where you can just truly create this environment for art to happen, for storytelling to happen, and
Yeah.
support each other in each other's journeys and be like, yo, go make that shit. Like, let's see that. I love that. Like, what can I do to help? You know? And I think that's the thing, I find, as I was saying earlier, in Hollywood, everything always feels so damn transactional. And
Yeah.
instead of being transactional, I think we should more be like, how can I help you? What can I do to help lift you up? How can I be of service? And I think those are the most important things we can ever do, because that, again, talking about pride earlier, that's the way that you break pride down. If you have those things, like, you catch yourself, that's how you use the hammer to break down pride. You got to break off all that, extra on you. And that really is how you grow a strong community and build fellowship and friendship and really change the world. We talk about change the world. You don't change the world in big broad strokes. You change the world one little brick at a time. That's how you build. You just got to build that strong foundation.
No, I believe you. I believe the same thing. I feel, everyone is equal. No one is any, there's no one higher than the other. Everybody's equal to me in my eyes. Um, it's not about, oh, instant gratification, like, oh, I'm gonna get my podcast higher than yours. You know what? At the end of the day, I'm creating what makes me happy and what's
Yeah,
fun. And I know there's other people that enjoy the same thing I do. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because there's other people who are the younger generation. And to me, that's where we need to tap right now, is a younger
100%.
generation, to
Yeah.
help them, to inspire them to, like, hey, you know what? Think outside your box. And, yeah, you know what? You're going to fall down, but that's something we can't teach you. You have to fall to learn and get
Yeah.
back up and learn how to start from the bottom up again. It's gonna bite, but you know what? You have to do it.
It always is a process, but truthfully, like, even as much as you think that you've, like, fallen all the way down, like, you really haven't. You might have dropped maybe one or two rungs, and then you're back up. And it's not always that, two steps forward, one step back kind of
Yeah.
mentality. But I really do believe that. You're absolutely right. Like, when it comes to the younger generation, and I look at my son who's 14, and I think it's really important to be able to lead by action, lead by example.
Yeah.
And that's not even leading, it's just being, because leading oftentimes can become pedantic. It can become, I know better than you
Yeah.
need to do this, I know this because, and those kinds of things become problematic, because truthfully, everyone's journey is theirs. And I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what's going to make you better, other than, here's some working tools.
Yeah.
You're the right tools for the job. Figure out, like, you need those working tools to basically build yourself and to learn and to be surrounded by people that have been there and that can help you, if you need it, but not in the way where they hand it to you. And I think, unfortunately, the world we're in right now, there is a lot of, I don't want to say laziness, because I think that's the wrong word. I think there's, to your point, instant gratification. There's this idea of, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to be famous tomorrow. I'm going to get on Instagram and I'm going to be famous tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
the means is off. The end goal is wrong.
Yes.
It's all about, I need to be famous, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a problem, because, like, why do you need to be famous? Well, I just need to be. Well, that means that, again, going back, that's your pride, that's your ego, that, and look, I think one of the biggest things that we ever can do and be proud of is that when we can take credit where credit is due. I think that's the most important thing. You put the work in, that's the thing, credit where credit is due. We all give our accolades. We all know where our strengths are. We know where our weaknesses are. We surround ourselves with people that help us, in those spaces where we have the chinks in the armor. We can't do it all by ourselves. All these cliches of, takes a village, whatever, right? It's like, it really does, though. You gotta always humble yourself back into that space and know, like, all right, this is my team. And, Tab is always, he always is saying that. We always are saying that, in our emails. If you read our email exchanges, like, with our editors, with our artists, and, like, Tab left this, like, beautiful voice memo on our Echo book when we wrapped that book. It was like a rap party, like, with this, like, love note to the team. And it's truly, meaningful, because I think when people work together, we can take that pride in the work, but it's not being prideful. It's we can be proud that we came together, but it's not being proud that we're putting down, you know? And I think that's the challenge, because again, these words have dualities to them. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big part. You look at Charlie Ramsey, there is this whole concept of identity, and there's a concept of duality that also coexists as a singularity of three, right? It's like this male female energy that comes together and makes something new. And that is something that we talk about. All religions have this idea of Trinity, right? That's another big element. If you in reading this, and again, no giving out spoilers again, I know, but there's a moment, and if you look at the token, and this is not me giving anything away, the token has a sun, the token has a moon, and the token has an eye. Those three elements come together to create that sort of moment of perfection in human experience. It is the male energy, it is the female energy, it is the active energy, it is the receptive energy, and it is that which brings them together to find truth, right? That's the key. That's what the token represents. That's what the goal of the arc is. But really, what it comes down to is when it's corrupted, when it's sick, it becomes the wrong side of it. And that's, you know, where you have the duality. Is it good or evil? It's not about good or evil. It's about how those actions play out in those choices.
No, it's true. And that's what makes you and Taboo's teamwork so great when it comes to writing. When you find that partner that helps you, you can never, in every industry, from the movie industry to, the music industry, there's always a team that helps you create. It's not, yeah, you have the singer, but hey, who's the one that records it? Who's the one that edits it? Who's the one that
Yeah,
puts
you
together? And
need a
sometimes,
bass player, baby.
you know what I mean? Yeah, it's there. It's a team effort. It's not about, and that's what a lot of bands too, where bands break up. It's because pride gets intervened, and great bands that eventually break up because of that. And
Yeah.
it should, you know what? We're doing something that we love. We're getting paid. Enjoy it, and that's the way I see it. It's. Don't get me wrong. We all want to be rich. We all want to be rich, but at the same time, I forgot who
Well,
said it.
I think go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh no,
interrupt.
no, no. It's just I feel that when I forgot who's the one that says it. I hear it a lot. It's basically, if you're doing what you love, you're
You never work a day in your life.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing that I've been finding, especially in my old age now. I mean, I think, it's funny because, when you're in your 20s, you don't really have a lot to reflect on when it comes to experience, right? Everything that you've had experience-wise has really sort of been forced on you, right? School, like those are like you have these sort of tracks that you're put on. So in your 20s, that's sort of what you reflect back on, your high school experiences, whatever it is, right? College experiences, etc. In your 30s, you have an opportunity to sort of reflect back on mostly the shit that you've messed up. Like all the things that you did stupid when you were in your 20s, whether it's whatever. I mean, I could go down many rabbit holes in that one. But, when you start getting into your 40s, and I remember when I hit 40, and it was during COVID, there was a moment of just going, the thing that I crave more than anything is peace. That's it. And it's not like wealth. If wealth can give you peace of mind, so you're not constantly struggling to pay the bills, to take care of your family, to do the things that are necessary in order to create a comfortable environment, that's important. But
Yeah.
peace is the key. You could have all the money in the world and not have an ounce of peace,
Yeah.
and you're not going to have happiness. And those two go hand in hand. Peace is what's going to bring you the happiness, like your peace of mind, the peace of body. When you're able to not have sickness within you or around you, that's when you can have that peace. And I think the most important thing we can ever do is strive to find that peace. And I think that's what Charlie Ramsey, that's their battle. That's their battle.
Yep. And it's funny how it comes back to even comics. It's
I mean, look, I love comic books, and I say this in every podcast or just even in my own. I love comics, and the reason why I love comics is because they can hit on so many levels. They are art. They are, storytelling in so many different ways. Like the letterer. I know we so often forget about the letterer, but letterers are key because they bring sound to the story. And we forget that. The letterer brings that sound, how that movement of the letters, whether it's through, the space. And I've worked with Dave Lamphere on many books, like indie books that I've worked on. Actually, I mean, Dave, I brought him on when we did the Masters of the Sun, and and Joe Sabino. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about Hawkeye. Joe's done a fantastic job, but I always love working with Dave, because Dave, he's super creative in a lot of his artistic choices and how lettering works when it moves us through the page, when it gives us sound, and I think as a team that often is forgotten, and it's one of those things when you choose the right font, and that to me is where comics are just, that's so different. Like, think about this, right? Like, as a filmmaker, editing, and which was my background, editing is what makes movies, right? Because you can turn a camera on, you can put it on the freaking, a stage, and that's a play. You got the camera, you got the actors, but the thing that changes everything, and this is like Sergei Eisenstein talks about this, Sergei, film sense and film form, those books. It's amazing if you look at how editorial choices and the montage and the sequences, that's where the genius can come out. And then working with an incredible artist who truly understands sequential storytelling, that's the beauty of it. Because we as writers, we can give them, the space to play. We can give them sort of, the suggestion of the panel pacing. But when it becomes that back and forth, and you can look at it, and the artist is able to really come in and layer in that montage and that choice of pacing, I mean, that's where true beauty comes into play in comics. And I mean, that's where the classics are. And for me as a writer, I hope, to always just keep up in the game, working, towards that, It's like, I mean, look, my North Star or my East Star, whatever you want to say, is Alan Moore. Alan, like, as grumpy and curmudgeon-y, that is the man. That is, he is just, I just love reading his stuff. It just brings me goosebumps.
No, and that's the thing, and and it's like listening to music. Every writer, it's like listening to country, rap, R&B. Every writer, it to me, that's how that is to me. It's basically every writer's a certain genre of music, and
I
that's
like that.
that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah.
Okay, but we got to go before we go. So,
Yeah.
Echo, what
Yeah.
can you entice people who, because this is going to be coming out, and what would you entice them for to go out and buy this, pre-order it, without giving spoilers?
Pre-order it. Yes, I know that the final cutoff is coming up soon. I think it's October 12th, so I gotta put in my order too. So without giving out spoilers, one thing I'll say is it takes place in LA, right? So this is an LA story. We bring Echo to LA. I think the last time she was there was with Moon Knight, and that was a dark, twisted tale. So Echo's in LA. It is a story about family, as often we do. I always am channeling that through Taboo. Obviously a lot of his energy is talking about family, about his his grandmother. So we're always looking at that, and bringing that into family. This one's a personal one, and I'm going to say this because this one's about addiction, and this story is about the battles of addiction. And Taboo and I are both, and we both are very open about it. We are sober. Like, I've been 6+ years sober now. My girlfriend is sober as well. And it's a life choice, right? It's a life choice. Taboo has been, I don't even know, 17 years. I mean, he's very open about it, talks about it, because there's that moment in your life where you realize, like, I need to clear my head. I need to clear myself, because whether it's alcohol or weed or whatever drug, whatever it is, and there's addictions across the board, right? Like, we all have our vices. I still drink my coffee and I love cigars. Like, I'm like, I'm not, it's not me, like, that's the thing. And I think a lot of times it's like people think that, oh, if I'm sober, I'm, going to preach to you. Look, I can go to a bar, I can hang out with you. I don't have to have a drink. I know my strength. I know my willpower. I know that I don't need it. Like, it's not for me. Like, I made that choice. I spent my 20s and 30s, you know, being that guy, you know, and it really was like Tab and I, when we first started working together, I wasn't, you know, I was still going out, I was still drinking, I was still, you know, partying. And I had a moment where, you know, my son at the time was much younger. This was 2019. It was on my 39th birthday.
Oh wow.
And it was like 39. I brought it in with a bang. I was up until 6 a.m. up in the Hollywood Hills. And my buddy, who's like, you know, this, you know, screenwriter up in his house, like doing the Hollywood, like it was Hollywood party, baby. The infinity pool overlooking all of LA. You know, we brought all our music instruments. We just, the party kept going. And I woke up that next morning and I was like, ooh, it just hurt, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, maybe I'll start it all, hair of the dog, whatever. And and then I had to go get my son 2 days later, and I still was feeling a little off, like because it was that kind of party.
Oh
And I
wow.
just was like, I don't want this anymore. So what I will say, and that's like the, you know, me being always transparent and being, you know, open about these things, because I think it's important to have these conversations, because a lot of kids, you know, think, oh, you know, go out and party, or my friends are drinking, I should go out and do that. Oh, they're doing blow, I should go do that, you know, and like and now everything, you know, just the crazy shit that's out there that can literally kill you. I've lost so many friends to heroin. I can't even count it. Like, I just can't, because I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, and it was just like my next door neighbor, who was a dear friend, OD'd, my sister's best friend. You know, like the amount of people I know, and I say kids, I mean they were in their 30s and shit. You know, and like,
Wow.
and it sucks, man. It really sucks. And I have to say, like, there are ways to find your center. There are ways to find your peace. And this story is about that. And Echo has to go, and she's got to basically find her cousin who's gone missing. And her cousin was a recovering addict.
Oh
And, you
wow.
know, and her cousin gets mixed up with some crazy shit. And that's all I'm going to say. So it's like, it's a story. And it's also about the duality of sometimes we find ourselves in places we think that can heal us, but they can't. And even in the book I say, it's like, you know, wherever you go, there you are, right? Like, if you haven't fixed yourself and you think, oh, if I move to, you know, LA, if I move to this place, if I go here, if I leave this relationship, if I, no, like, you got to get right with yourself. That's the story. And this story is about that. It's, again, a one and done in 20 pages, in and out. But I'm really, you know, I'm proud of this one. Tab's proud of this one. You know, this one, he's like, I can share with my daughter. Hawkeye, Ultimate Hawkeye can't, you know. I remember, so my girlfriend's son read it, and he's like, that was sad, Ben. And I was like, I know, but not really. It's bittersweet, like, you know, without giving away the ending.
Yeah.
But you know, I think, and there's a really, I'm really proud of this, like how we were able to bring in this very street level villain. It's not Avengers threat. Like, this is Echo against someone that she can go toe to toe with, but who is a true villain, who is like, you know, and it's also very, as you know, like, to write about things symbolically, multiple layers, level layers, whatever. It also ties into where we are right now in our society, and the silver tongues that, you know, pull us in directions. And if we don't have our core and our strength, then, you know, our addictions can get the better of us.
Nice. Now I'm looking forward to it. Echo has been a character that I feel has been well represented. Loved it on Disney Plus. I want more of her. Um, because that character in herself is just the actress who portrays her is phenomenal.
It's great.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Blade. Now, for you as a writer and for the younger generations, and I ask this from all creators, what would you tell the younger generation to inspire them to do if they want to be a writer and or editor, producer working, what would
Well, I mean,
you?
look, I mean, here's the one thing I'll say. Storytelling is really where it comes from, right? Like storytelling, and it sounds so cliched. It's like, marketing people talk about storytelling, selling this thing. In the sick way of it, it's about selling something, right? You're trying to sell someone an idea. You're trying to sell someone a way of thinking or manipulate. It becomes, dark magic, if you will. Writing is a never ending journey of expressing the self into language that ultimately can shift and change perspective through its frameworks, its references. It The journey of a writer never ends.
Yeah.
You will never stop learning. The more that you can go out and experience life, the more that you can have things to dig from. I mean, because writing is about digging. It's about being, all the books always say, write from your truth. Don't write from experience. Like, because I think that's wrong. If you write from experience, you just become, you're writing history, right? It's your history, but it's still history. Understand symbols, understand how these ideas are represented and thematically represented into storytelling.
Okay.
Myths are so important, reading all of the myths. Look, read the Bible, read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Quran, find so much inspiration in these spiritual texts as well as your comic books and your Dan Brown books, or those books you're going to find, the history books. Read history books. Like, just find those things that inspire you, excite you, but also at the same time that you don't really know anything about either. Pull a book off the shelf and just start digging into it. Watch a YouTube channel that maybe you've never explored before, that is about something in history that you have no idea what it's about. You never know where you're going to find inspiration. You never know what's going to push you in the direction that will ultimately give you those seeds that one day might become the greatest story that you've ever written, and didn't know because it came from somewhere that you didn't expect it to. And I think that's the thing. Like, writing is discovery. Writing is discovery of self. It's the discovery of the world. It's a discovery, talking to people, sitting in cafes, just listening. Writing is listening. It's that's one of my challenges. I talk, I teach, I do all these things, but I have to remind myself that, like, half of my job is to listen.
Wow.
That's the key. So, I mean, look, the other thing I will say is there are so many jobs in the arts that you might not even understand or know about, right? And don't ever push them off, or don't say, "Oh, I didn't get that job as a writer." Because guess what? Like, you might get that job as a film editor, and that was the thing. I wanted to be a film writer. I wanted to be a director. Like, my first mentor was Larry Cohen. My goal was to be a screenwriter and to direct movies. Comics were a love and a passion of mine, but not something I strived to do. I wasn't out on this journey to go and write comics. I wanted to be writing the big movies, and then I become friends with these, screenwriters, and I'm going like, yeah, you made a lot of money, but God, like, you were, you went through some really. All right, I'm glad I didn't go through those journeys, But I mean, but everybody's, as I said, everybody's journey is there. So just keep experiencing, just keep writing. Carry a notebook, carry a pen, read, write, listen, live life. That's the biggest thing. Live life, and you never know what direction it's going to take you, and say yes to the adventure.
Yeah, guys, taking it from him, you never know what's going to happen. Ride the wave. The wave may crash. Just get your board, get back up, wait for that next wave, and do the journey again. All you're doing is
The
learning, putting
waves
more.
keep coming. The waves keep coming, man. Come on. The tide always is ebbing and flowing. It never
Yeah,
stops. It's not like one day the ocean just stops. Just know that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You learn, and then once you learn, like, hey, you know what? You learn the little tricks of this wave, how to avoid it from crashing the next time, or when it's going to give. There's a lot of experience. Never stop learning because every day's a learning experience from either TV, movies, books. Never stop learning. Never settle. Because you never know what that you learn today will help you later. So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Look forward to more of your work. Countdown City Geeks, go like and follow him. He always posts cool stuff. Um, Guys, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Retro Ray.
Peace, guys.
Peace.